Let's start Lab 400 by logging into the Oracle Cloud. To do so, enter your cloud account name, followed by your username and password. Once logged into the OCI console, let's navigate to Visual Builder Studio by going to Platform Services, Developer. Here we'll access the instance URL for the AppDev instance. We're going to select our project, and then we're going to click on the Environment section. Here we'll create our first environment. Next, we'll need to define our environment. This will associate a Visual Builder Cloud Service backend instance to the Visual Builder Studio front end. Now that our environment's been configured, let's switch over to Designer and let's create our workspace. This will be a new visual application, and it will be a Scratch repository. Next, we're going to create some service connections. Here we'll leverage the REST endpoints that we tested out in Lab 300. Let's click the Create Service Connection, then Define by Endpoint. In here, we will enter the URL that we tested in Lab 300. Next, we'll test our endpoint by clicking Send. We'll save the example response. Here we'll create a second endpoint. The first one was a get many. The next one will be a single get one. And again, we'll need to test the endpoint. Here we'll need to enter a value so it can retrieve a single product. Let's enter the product of 1027. Click the Send. Be sure to click the Save as an example response. Now we're going to create a new service endpoint for request more information. Here we're going to select Post for the method. We're going to enter the user request URL and change this to a create. Let's navigate over and test the endpoint. Here we'll supply a sample request body. We'll click Send. Once completed, we'll receive a status of 200. We want to make sure to click the Save as Example Request and also Save as Example Response. Now that our endpoints are created, we're now going to move over and create the mobile application. To do so, we will import most of the mobile application from a zip file. Let's drag the mobile application zip file and click Import. Now that the mobile application has been imported, let's make some changes to it. Let's expand the mobile app to the main start page. And here we're going to add a custom heading and a custom image. We can do that by dragging the heading component and the image component onto our page. Let's change the text from heading to product. Let's also drag in a custom image. Now that our main page is set up, we need to define a couple variables which will allow us to retrieve data from our endpoints. Let's click Variable Add. It will be a service data provider type. We'll want to select the Get List for the product. Let's use the existing type, and we can select the Get Products. And we'll see that it already populated the 4 values it's going to bring over. Once our endpoint has been configured, let's set up some general information. The response type is Get Products. And if we move back to our mobile application, we'll see that we now have products listed on our main page, which were delivered from the endpoint. Next, we're going to configure the Get Specific product. So here we're going to click on the REST endpoint, and we're going to select the REST endpoint for the Git 1. Let's map a couple input parameters. Let's drag the Git ID over to ID and click Save. At this point, we can test our endpoint or our application by clicking the Run. Here you can see that you can select specific products and it will bring up the details of that product. Now we're going to move over to the Request More Information page, and we need to configure the REST endpoint for that. So let's click on the Call REST endpoint and then select Endpoint. And here we're going to select the User Post Request endpoint. We need to assign some parameters to this. So let's drag the contact details over to the body. Now it's time to test the Request More Information page. Let's click Run. Let's select a specific product. Let's click Request More Information. This will allow the user the ability to enter their name, phone number, email, and a question they may have on the specific product. When they click Submit, you will see that the message was sent successfully. Now that we're done building out our mobile application, we want to make sure that we save it to a Git repository. Let's go up and select the Push option. Here we'll create a new repository. Let's give it a name. Let's give it a commit message. Let's click Create and Push. If we navigate back over to our project, in Git section, we'll see that we now have a new Git repository which stores our mobile application. And that concludes Lab 400. Let's move on to Lab 500. Thank you.